All right, we got it mocked up again with the engine mounts in this time. And this is pretty much how it's going to sit. Minus half an inch or so, you know. So really happy with how it's turning out. Everything clears and nothing touching anymore, so really good. So I'll pull all this stuff out, pull the engine back out, or pull the engine mounts off, I should say, and then I'll weld those bolts in. And then that's that one job finished. Well, hey guys, welcome back to Detroit Garage. On this episode, we're going to make the engine mounts for little Jimmy. So we've got 2 back mounts and 1 front mount to make. So the rear mounts are going to be quite easy, I think. The front one's a little more difficult, and I'll show you why in a sec. But yeah, the rear engine mounts will be made out of 3/8 plate steel, and the plan is there's not a lot of room to work here, but we're going to bolt these 3/8 plate on here. And then it's going to come up here and across, and there's going to be enough room for the old engine mounts off of the Buddha. And we'll put a bolt in much like this one here, a similar style to bolt that down with. So the same on the other side. Same deal here. There's just enough room to make a fairly decent engine mount there. But yeah, so far very happy with the fitment. There's a few tweaks I've got to do when I do the engine mounts. I'm going to tilt the engine forward slightly, another degree or two, and that'll be almost level with this this weight here. And there you can see that, well, maybe you can't on camera here, but the back of the transmission can come up about 1/8 of an inch, and then that'll remove the engine pan off the cross member. Right now the cross member is sitting on or I should say the oil pan sitting on the cross member. So by lifting this up slightly, it'll get it off the cross member. The front of the engine, I've had to think on this one several times over what's going to happen here. We're going to use the original plate I've got that was on it. So what I'll do is I'll put that plate on for you, just kind of mock it up and show you what I'm talking about. All right, so here's the front mount plate that was on this engine, or on a 353, I can't remember which one, but anyway, was on another Detroit. So what I'm going to do now, I've cut the bottom of that off, and that's this piece here. So that's cut off. And the plan is to run a plate out here and have it rest on the original Buddha mount. So that's the plan, and then it has to double as a mount for the hydraulic pump. So, okay, so there's the deer adapter right here. It's a 1-inch and 6-tooth shaft. All right. What's on the Buddha is this piece here. This is what drives the pump on a Buddha, and it's a different, totally different setup. So I'd have to adapt this piece to run off of this, but I've decided now, while I've got all this apart, I'm going to upgrade this pump. This pump is an aftermarket pump I bought, I forget, maybe 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And it's an Italian pump. It's quite expensive. It was during COVID, just before COVID or during COVID that I bought it. So 3 years ago. And it's been a good pump, but it's broken once. I broke the shaft once. And I stripped out the coupler once. So this aluminum coupler's been stripped out. I did find 2 on Facebook from a gentleman, and I bought those off him, and this is one of them. But it's rather fragile. So what I'm gonna do while this is apart is upgrade to a 1-inch style pump, so an SAE pump. And they're a lot cheaper, they're American made, and just a better deal all around. So before I do the adapter for this to fit here, I'm going to find another pump and fit the pump first. Then I can line up the pump onto the hub. So that's the plan for that. So this engine mount's gonna double as a mount for the hydraulic pump. So to give you an idea what I'm talking about, here's the Buddha. It's got 4 mounts here, right? So I have to make those for the Detroit. And that's what I'm going to do. There's also another method of running a drive shaft and a universal joint and then mounting the pump down onto the forklift. I've thought of that as well, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to mount it solid to the engine. Okay, so back to the front engine mount again. So this is the piece bolts onto the engine, and I have to build a plate out that runs out to the front mount. So what I'm going to do is use this piece off the bottom and then hack it off here, straighten it out, and that'll come out here. And then I'm going to cut these pieces off here, and then I have to brace it all up again. So I think that's my best method, and that'll work really nice. It'll be a bit of a hack job, but when it's done, it should look okay. Cut off. So that's how that's going to work, but it has to be flat. In the past, what I've done with stuff like this is I take this and give it a cut down the middle and then spread it out and weld it back up. But this time what I'm going to try is use my 20-ton press. See if that works. So I'll set it up and see if I can't flatten that piece out. All right, let's try that. I can't guarantee this is going to work. Well, we got 5 tons on it now. Is it bending? Oh, we've come up against something solid. not to worry. Oh, we're making progress. This is why I've got this cage here. If this thing pops out, it could kill me. So this is the dangers of trying to do this stuff. All right, I think I've got enough. That's 7 tons of pressure. And what I'll do is I'll put these plates down and then keep going. See that? 7 tons to make it bend. All right. Oh, that's doing something. Yeah, we only got 5 tons, and you can see it's spreading out, so that is very good. That's exactly what I want to see. Yeah, that's pretty good. Straight enough for government work. So there's the idea, guys. I'm gonna weld that on there and then brace the bottom up, and that should make a really nice engine mount. Okay, here it is. Give you an idea of how that's going to work. Should work pretty sweet. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, it's mocked up for welding, so I'll tack it up and then go test it and see what I think. All right, there it is, just kind of mocked up, tacked in. So I will now weld that up and then brace it and then trim all this, drill the hole, whatnot. So, and see what other adjustments have to be made. Okay, got the back bit welded up. So I'll test fit that again and then weld up the front piece. Well, there it is. just another mock-up test fitting, but yeah, it fits really nice. So I'll brace this up now and then cut it to fit, and then put some weight on it, see what adjustments have to be made. All right, so this is what we're doing. We're cutting this piece off here, and that's going to be the brace. Yeah, that should be strong enough to hold little Jimmy. That's what it looks like. So a couple braces here, and build the back up slightly, and that's never going anywhere. And then taper this around here like this. All right, guys, it's all welded up. So put another test fit on it, and then I'll get this all sorted out and then drill a hole through and then test it out. All right, it's all drilled and torqued down now. So now I've got to do the rear mounts. I'll put it back down on the oil pan again. So yeah, I'll jack it up probably 1/8 of an inch or so. And that should just about be perfect. Before I make the rear mounts, I'm just sizing this up one last time before I commit. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I measured that counterweight, and I'm going to have to give the counterweight a 1-inch lift. And I had to raise the radiator about 3/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch to 3/4, so I can get the pump to clear the radiator. Now, when I buy a new pump, I've got to make sure it's similar in diameter to this one. So that's kind of just propped up there for now, but it's very close. It's going to have to go forward some towards the front of the forklift. But yeah, pretty happy with that. All right, guys, we got this mocked up for the rear engine mounts. And I got to pull out this throttle linkage because that won't be used anymore. There's 1.5 inches between the frame and the engine block, or the housing. On both sides, they're equal, 1.5 inches. The 3/8 plate and the bolt that bolts onto it's going to be 1 inch, so that leaves me 1/2 inch to play with on each side. So it's just enough. This and this conflict, but I think I can cut that out and easily put the engine mount in there. So I'm gonna make these this plate first, and then have a think on all of this as I make those. Same on this side. These mounts I'm gonna reuse and try to find new ones on McMaster Carr or something of that nature, if I can. If not, well, they've lasted this long. Can't see why they can't go another 30 years. Okay, there it is. Go test fit it now. There. That fits pretty good. All right, fits pretty good. So I'll duplicate this one and then go bolt it onto the 253 and see what I've got. I've got the bracket mounted up, and then I hacked this one up, oops, from scrap. So what I'm going to do now is tack this on and then go weld it up. So I've got to square it up, you know. Yeah, so that's all I'm going to do now is just tack it and then take it off. And then finish it. Okay, here it is, all tacked up. I've squared it up, and that'll change again as I put some beads on this. I'll have to bang it square again. But before I do that, I'll go test it one more time. All right, so now I'm going to dress this up a little bit. and then I'm going to brace it up here. So another test fits in order, and then brace it up. Oh, well, there it is, roughed in. It's resting on the mounts now. I've got the other mount finished. So I've got it on just some spacers for now, but I will put the engine mounts in after I drill some holes. So this is the plan. These are the same diameter as the engine mounts. So I'm just going to center punch these and drill a hole through. Okay, it's a little bit of work, but it saves me having to lift the engine out and do all that other stuff, so that's looking mighty fine. Well, I've got the engine back in and sitting on the engine mounts, and I've got about a 1/16 of an inch clearance between the cross member and the oil pan. So what I'm going to do now is drill the holes into the frame and weld the bolts so I can clamp it down, and then make final adjustments with shims. So it's equidistance, got an inch on each side. Drive lines lined up, so it's time to drill those holes. Okay, holes are drilled, and I've got the bolts. I've just kind of put them in here for now, and then I'll test fit this again. Test fit 1,000,000 times before I commit. So yeah, I'll clean that up, pull these back out, and then clean that up and weld them. What they did originally was drilled holes through the frame and put a split pin in to keep these from moving. All right, we got those bolts welded in. So we'll bolt it down and make the caps for this the engine mounts. Well, there you have it, guys. That's the engine mounts complete. I used hockey pucks on the top and then the original mounts on the bottom, and it's nice and firm, and I think that should work really good. I will try to find replacements for these older rubber mounts, but if I can't, well, it's going to last another 30 years anyway, so I'm not going to get too excited about that. All I've got to do now to finish these off is just put a little brace on each side there and then paint them up, and that's it. But they're basically done. I'm calling it done. It turned out to be quite a bit of work to get everything right, but everything clears. There's about 1/8 of an inch clearance on the oil pan, between the oil pan and the cross member. Yeah, so about 1/8 of an inch. See if I can get a camera in there to look. Yeah, so it's 1/8 of an inch or so all the way across, so that's pretty nice. So I'm calling this good. And next is the bypass filter housing. You could see that housing down here. This one right here. That's off my 653, and it's too large for the inline 53 series. So I tried to find one, and of course can't get them. A friend of mine has a CNC machine, but his machine's down at the moment, so I'm gonna make one. So that's what's on the next video, making a remote engine filter mount. So little Jimmy's getting so dirty he might need a respray. I think I've got just enough paint to do everything once over and make them look pretty again. I shouldn't have painted them, but I couldn't help it. I like them looking nice, you know. But when you start doing welding next to them and doing all this other stuff, they get dirty pretty fast. So that's its final resting place now, and I'm very happy with it. Should be just about perfect. And well, thanks for checking in, guys. That's the engine mounts complete. So we'll catch you on the next video. Take care.